Hello and welcome to Lemieux Reviews, where we bring you the stories you may not yet have heard of. My name is Lemieux, and today we are bringing you one of my favorite comics, Once and Future, a story that mixes mythology, folktales, and has our characters play a part in their stories, where family comes with dark secrets and greater mysteries. This comic was created by Boom Studios, Kieran Gillen, and Tamara Bonneville. The series was repeatedly nominated for the Hugo Award 3 times and nominated for the Eisner Award. It heavily centers around Arthurian myths. The first issue came out on August 14th in 2019 in a run that lasted for 30 issues. Now let us take a look at the cover for the first issue. A skeletal, armor-clad figure in the background with two characters reflected in the blade of a blood-splattered sword. Skeletal gauntleted hand wrapped around the grip. It shows a grim reminder of what the series may show in the future. Our first scene opens in Cornwall, Great Britain. We see a tent out in the middle of a field. Two people are inside, talking about a find in a dried-up lake bed. The item seems to be very old. The piece is a scabbard of a sword that seems to be well preserved and made. The red-haired woman seeming to know exactly what the relic is by the sight of it. She makes a call confirming the authenticity of the object, and suddenly 3 men walk in, one of them walking over and grabbing the relic and drawing a gun on the man when he tries to stop them. Confused and frightened, the original man asks what they are after, and the thief says he wants the country back and shoots the man and kills him. Moving over to Somerset, we see the outside of a large building/home, with a TV giving a news report. Some people complaining about the Great British Bake Off and how they can't watch it, where a single older woman rolling a cigarette warns them the one to touch the TV gets their fingers broken, as the news report talks about the shooting at the dig site. An old gentleman grumbles about the news and is hushed. We find that the older lady, who is keeping everyone in line, is named Bridget, with a soon-to-be visiting grandson. She guilts the nurse into letting her go out for a walk. Jumping over to Bristol, we meet Duncan and Rose, the grandson who is fumbling a date, having spilt wine all over his companion. Clearly flustered and embarrassed, he tries to help her clean up the mess, while she sits there and talks about how she understands why everyone warned her about Duncan. In the middle of the conversation, he apologizes as a call comes in from the senior center. His date is skeptical of his intent, thinks the call an excuse to ditch out on the date, only to find the grandmother had snuck out of the home. The grandmother, though strong-willed, had moved there so Duncan didn't have to worry about her and had never done this before. Right then, he receives a call from her. Bridget asks Duncan for help, saying people would have made a fuss if she had tried to leave some other way. Duncan, apologizing for having to leave, is let off gracefully by Rose, who is all too understanding and lets him leave with grace. In the middle of the forest, he finds his grandmother, having dug up a hatch and having trouble because of her age opening it. She makes a joke about getting out there using a free Uber app, but doesn't understand why she needed to put in her credit card information. Duncan pries open the hatch to find in his stunned disbelief it is packed with weapons of all kinds, from guns to explosives to blades, left untouched since she buried them there. Duncan examining a weapon Bridget used to hunt vampires with, till she explains she ran out of vampires. Duncan's skepticism shows, since she always mocked anything supernatural. Looking up, Gran has noticed the sky has changed to an odd color. She asks Duncan what he hears. His response is that there are a lot of dogs barking in the distance. That's when she mentions the questing beast and what he knows of it. Duncan has no knowledge of a questing beast, having lived a sheltered life. In front of them appears a massive creature, head and neck of a serpent, a spotted fur body, belly stuffed with what looks like hounds, large clawed feet, and a scale reptilian tail. Duncan turns back, realizing that behind him is the giant monster. He stares in shock and horrified realization. He is told to run, only to be used as a distraction, since it gives chase when he moves. In its pursuit, trees are ripped up from the root, Bridget frantically searching for the specific weapon needed, finally finding it, calls him to lead it back into a trap, only to have his route blocked by the creature, ready for him to make his move. Making a joke about how bad the night seems to be getting, he charges straight at the creature. With a surprising show of strength, Duncan picks up a tree, charges at the creature. He slams it into the log into the serpent's mouth, making it unable to close its jaw. Duncan makes it past the creature as the tree snaps in half in the beast's mouth. Duncan reaches for his grandmother, who throws him a spear. The questing beast charges in, ready to strike Duncan. Duncan raises the point of the spear, only to have it stop in its tracks, letting out a hiss. The questing beast starts acting oddly. Duncan doesn't realize that it has turned away and started to walk. Warned not to give chase, the grandmother says that anyone who does soon gets enthralled and can't turn away from it. She warns him that chasing the creature can become an obsession, also dropping a bit of lore that it can't be brought down now, but will return at the most inappropriate time. Duncan goes off again about how she always said things like this are nonsense. Her reply, just because it's nonsense doesn't mean it isn't real. Now they are the only ones left who can stop what's coming. Things that the people have killed to make sure they get their way. Duncan begins to firmly insist that his grandmother can't run around chasing monsters, but that he can take care of things once they get her back home. But when he approaches, she pulls a gun on him and warns him she is coming because he will be in danger if he goes alone. He doesn't for a second think that the woman who raised him will shoot him, only to immediately be proven wrong by having a hole put in his ear. Now forced to carry the guns and drive them to Glastonbury at gunpoint, Duncan's still in the dark about why the scabbard is significant. Turns out it's a magical item once owned by a warlord and stolen by his sister and thrown into a lake. That the sheath can heal all wounds, but for all its power was never as famous as the sword it held, also known as Excalibur. Duncan freaks out at the mention of the famous sword, clarifying if she was talking about the sword owned by King Arthur. But she makes it clear he was never the owner of the sword, but lent it by the Lady of the Lake, and that if they have the scabbard, they might bring Arthur back. Duncan wonders why they would need to stop that, with Arthur being one of the good guys. She is amused by his naivety. In his myth, he ran off all the invaders from the lands of Britain, but also went to war with a European empire and crushed it in his wake. His myth also says he will return in the country's darkest hour, a prophecy that may have two interpretations. One meaning of that prophecy could be to save Britain, another to lead them into the darkness. And we see the group that took the scabbard has found Arthur's tomb. And that is part one of Once and Future. It's a story that is straightforward, not marred down by incessant flashbacks, but a good flow and organic feel of the characters and their interactions with each other. Throw in a real-world mythology and sharp colors with a well-defined art style, and you get the bones of an award-winning story. Alright, now to geek out a little bit, because it seems the creators really did their homework when incorporating the mythology into this comic. Like, first of all, right off the bat, you get one of the big things like the questing beast. Its backstory came about from the same actions that created Mordred. Then afterwards, the father being ripped apart by dogs, which is where you get the howling. Then to be hunted, but not caught by knights like Pellamore, and then caught by knights like Palamedes, actually completing the task. Also in legend, having appeared to King Arthur after his sinful moments. Then they touch on the scabbard, which in fact had no name, but could heal any wound. It was given to Arthur with the sword, was taken away by his sister in her plan to strike him down and Camelot. In fact, losing the sheath allows Mordred to mortally wound his father in their last battle. Then There's the sword Excalibur, often confused with the sword pulled from the stone, though that sword was called Caliburn. Like the book said, he gets it from the lady in the lake, Nimue. Nimue also being the person who betrays Merlin in the future. In some stories, the sword is returned to the lake by Sir Bedivere. The book really showing they did their research, knowing the backgrounds of all the parts of the Arthurian myth, which is impressive. Overall, the first entry didn't try to overcomplicate things, was a satisfying... Overall, the first entry didn't try to overcomplicate things, was a good entry point to the story, and left me satisfied. That will close out today's episode. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thank you very much.